Ask all those participating on the call, please mute your phone unless you need to speak. First order of business is to approve the minutes from July 8th, 2021. You all have seen those. Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from July 8th, 2021 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those minutes are approved 5-0. A little bit of a longer agenda today. We have 5 tariffs and new orders, 2 case discussions, a presentation by Spire, and then a closed session to discuss litigation. So we'll get right into the tariffs and new orders. First up is file number ER 2021-0411. This is in the matter of Evergy Missouri West, Inc., DBA Evergy Missouri West's demand-side investment mechanism rider rate adjustment and true-up required by 20 CSR 4240-20.093 sub 4. Evergy Missouri West filed a tariff sheet and supporting testimony to adjust the company's demand-side investment rider under MIA. The tariff sheet was substituted, notice was given, and an intervention deadline set, but no requests were received. They will decrease the residential and small and general service custom rider rates. Staff reviewed the filings and the substituted tariff sheet and recommends that the interim tariff sheet be approved. No other responses were received. So this order simply approves the tariff sheet with the interim rate to go into effect on August 1st, and I support the order as drafted version 1. Commissioner Roop?
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm supporting.
The tariff sheet was substituted, notice was given, and an intervention deadline.
Wow, that was a little bit of a delay echo there. Okay, Commissioner Coleman?
I support the order.
All right, Commissioner Holzman?
I support the order.
And Commissioner Kolkmeyer?
As do I.
All right. All those in favor of approving the order as drafted version 1 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That order is approved 5-0. Next up, file number TA 2021-0198. This is in the matter of Aptitude Internet LLC, application for designation as an eligible telecommunication carrier for purposes of receiving federal universal service support. In January, Aptitude filed a request for eligible telecommunication carrier designation. The company amended its application in April to make it clear that its designation request was only for the census blocks in which it was granted Rural Digital Opportunity Funds and to be used for the purpose of broadband expansion. On May 12th, the Commission issued an order granting Aptitude's request. However, on June 23rd, the company filed a motion to clarify the order granting the designation. The company explained that the original Exhibit A attached with its application was incomplete, and the company submitted a revised Exhibit A that contains all of the census blocks it was awarded for the RDOF auction. No responses to Aptitude's motion were received. This order grants the motion and clarifies that Aptitude is granted ETC status for purposes of receiving federal high-cost and low-income support in the census blocks described in the revised Exhibit A, and I recommend we support this order as drafted version 3. Commissioner Roop?
I agree, and we'll be supporting.
Commissioner Coleman?
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman?
Aye.
One more time, Commissioner Holzman? Okay.
I support the order.
All right, we got it. Commissioner Kolkmeyer?
I also support the order.
All right, all those in favor of approving the order as drafted version 3 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioners Roop and Holzman?
Roop is an aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, all right, there we go. That order is approved 5-0. Next up, file number ER 2021-0410. This is in the matter of Evergy Metro, Inc., in DBA Evergy Missouri Metro's demand-side investment mechanism rider adjustment rate and true-up required by 20 CSR 4240-20.093 sub 4. Evergy Metro also filed a tariff sheet and supporting testimony to revise the company's interim demand-side investment mechanism rider rate. The tariff sheet was also substituted on June 28th. Notice is issued and a deadline given for requests to intervene, but none were received. Staff reviewed the tariff sheets and the supporting testimony and recommended that the substitute tariff sheets be approved. No other responses were received. The interim tariff sheets will result in a decrease for both residential and non-residential customers. I support the order authorizing the substitute tariff sheet to go into effect on August 1st and subsequently closing this file. So this is version 1. I recommend we support version 1. Commissioner Root.
I recommend we support it as well.
All right, Commissioner Coleman.
I agree.
Commissioner Holzman.
I support the order.
Commissioner Goldmeyer.
As do I.
All right, all those in favor of approving the order as drafted version 1 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That order is approved 5-0. Next up, file numbers GR 2017-0215 and GR 2017-0216. This is in the matter of Spire, Missouri Inc.'s request to increase its revenues for gas service. The Commission issued its amended report and order in Spire, which was formerly known as Laclede Gas Company, in March of 2018. After an appeal, the Missouri Supreme Court issued an order remanding a part of that report and order, and the court directed the Commission to adjust the pension asset values for 1994 to 1996 timeframe and to hold further proceedings. Since then, Spire has filed a new general rate case request, and that hearing is set to start in a few weeks. Last month, Spire and staff submitted a joint recommendation that the Commission address the remanded pension asset issue in the pending rate case. Staff and the company correctly point out that by doing this, it could prevent the need for an additional hearing on an issue from prior rate case. No other responses were received to that request, so this order clarifies that, as the company and staff have proposed, the issues of the remanded pension asset will be considered in Spire's pending rate case, which is GR 2021-0108. This is version 1, and I recommend that we support the order. Commissioner Root.
I recommend we support as well.
Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman.
I support the order.
Commissioner Goldmeyer.
I also support the order.
All right. All those in favor of approving the order as drafted version 1 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
That order is approved 5-0. Yeah, 6-0 with the echo. All right. Final order today is file number ET 2021-0082. This is in the matter of the application of Union Electric Company, DBA Ameren, Missouri, for approval of its surge protection program. Ameren, Missouri submitted tariff sheets for its proposed surcharge protection program. Those tariff sheets have an effective date of July 31st, and to allow the Commission sufficient time to have an order issued and for that report to have at least 10 days before an effective date, we're going to suspend those tariff sheets submitted by Ameren, and I recommend we support this order version 2. Commissioner Root.
I agree.
Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman.
I support the order.
And Commissioner Goldmeyer.
I also support the order.
All right. All those in favor of approving the order as drafted version 2 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That order is approved 5-0. That concludes reports and orders. As I mentioned, we have 2 case discussions before the presentation. So let's start with file number ET 2021-0082. This is in the matter of the application of Union Electric Company, DBA Ameren, for approval of its surge protection program. Judge Pridgen.
Mr. Chairman, good morning. Thank you. A couple of things to bring up before I throw it back to you, I guess, to see if you know how you want to vote on this. Number one, the operation of law date on the memo is now obsolete since you just approved an order suspending the tariff. So I wanted to make sure you were clear that you do have some extra time if you need it. Number two, a lot of the issues in this are conditional upon the Commission approving the program. So if you decide to reject the program, you don't reach a lot of these issues. So really, if I could kind of lay it out for you a little more simply, number one, do you think that the surge protection program is electric plant? If you do, you move to issue number 2, which should the Commission approve the program. And then if you decide to approve, you have some conditions that the parties have brought to your attention, such as accounting and customer education. If you decide not to approve the program, you don't really reach those issues. You just kind of stop your analysis there. So I hope that clarifies things, and if not, I'm happy to try to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the, it was a very good memo, broke down the multiple issues. I would like to start by kind of laying out my general position and just see where everyone is. Since, as you pointed out, that may impact the need to address several of the specific sub-issues. As Ameren has described this surge protection collar device and how it attaches to the company's metering equipment, I do think that the collar equipment falls within the statutory definition of electric plant. It is a fixture or personal property used in connection with furnishing electricity. And if it is electric plant, I think it's appropriate that the program be offered as a regulated program, since it is being offered by a regulated utility. Now, I know there were references to other regulated utilities offering forms of optional surge protection programs, either by affiliates or in an unregulated manner, and to me that raises questions. If a utility that this commission regulates is associated with an optional but unregulated surge protection program, I'm concerned that customers might think the program is something the commission has reviewed and approved and regulates. So if Evergy or Liberty are using a type of collar like the one that Ameren is proposing, then again, I think that falls within the definition of electric plant, and I would like some clarification as to why those programs weren't brought to the commission for approval. So no matter what we ultimately decide in this case, I would like staff to look into what type of optional surge protection programs may be offered in other regulated utilities in Missouri, and under what utilities names and monthly billings if it's in their name. But specifically Ameren's program, when this program was first described at the hearing, I had some serious reservations. Especially if the monthly charge for the service is above the actual cost of the device and the program. I think that the rates for electricity should be based on the cost of service, since we have a monopoly where retail customers don't have the option to buy their electricity from any other provider. But I don't know that rationale necessarily transfers to an optional service. So the surge protection collar isn't required for Ameren to provide safe and adequate service. But if customers want an additional level of protection against possible damage to their personal property, this would be an option for them. Customers can choose if the price is worth the peace of mind that they get from signing up for that service. So while I might not personally sign up for the program myself, other customers might, and they might think that having that convenience taken care of without having to hire someone to arrange on their own is worth that higher cost. And unlike what customers pay for power, if they think the price of the surcharge protection program isn't worth it, they can choose not to sign up or to cancel their participation. So the fact that Ameren's proposal would have program costs above the cost of service is not necessarily unreasonable to me. I am intrigued by how Ameren's proposal for the surcharge protection program can possibly benefit all ratepayers over time if the program is able to cover fixed costs. And I think that there would be a benefit to customers if it helps reduce rates in the scenario they laid out. But while they claim that the net benefit to non-participants could be, and I emphasize could be, over $47 million in the next 20 years, there's just a lot of unknowns. Evident by Ameren's own claim that the program benefits on a net present value basis could be over $28 million or only $3.5 million. We just don't know. And there's no sunset for this program as it's been proposed, and that is a concern to me as well. So Ameren said they were willing to come back to the commission with a financial analysis after 3 years so that the commission could revisit an approval decision, but that would require all ratepayers to pay those costs until we had that review 3 years from now. So I think that the program that they're proposing today places too much risk on all ratepayers if it goes into rate base now, while investors would shoulder none of the risk if Ameren's projections for participation year over year are wrong. And there's a lot of unknowns with that. So I agree with staff that the proposed design does not convey adequate details about the program to the customers or include detail necessary for reasonable tariff administration and enforcement. So I will not be supporting the program as submitted because of the concerns I just mentioned. But I will say that this surcharge protection program, surge protection program, may be better suited as a pilot program where perhaps some upfront setup costs or marketing costs are recovered in rates, and then the program costs can be tracked, but initially only recovered through participants until the Commission can evaluate in a future rate case whether the net benefits and enrollment levels are consistent with their projections at the 3-year mark. So, and then if it's not, then it could be sunsetted if it were set up as a pilot with another proposal. So, big picture, I don't support this proposal as it's brought to today. I do think that it's electric plant. I do think it should be regulated, and I would like to see another proposal for a pilot that could possibly create downward rate pressure for all ratepayers. So that's where I'm at. If anybody is still listening, Commissioner Roop, your thoughts?
My thoughts, Mr. Chairman, I agree with 90% of everything you said except the last 10%. Yeah, I agree it's plant. Yeah, I think it can be a regulated program. Yeah, the cost is above, but like you stated, it is optional, and there could be a benefit to all ratepayers. And I think that I want to commend the company for bringing this to us to have the option to put it as a regulated program rather than just implementing it as a non-regulated program and just benefiting shareholders. So I think it's great that they brought it to us and said, hey, well, there's a structure that we believe that everybody could benefit from through this optional program. So I think it checks all the boxes of is it legal, can it be? It is optional. If people want to choose that they participate, they can. If they choose not to, but they still could also benefit if they choose not to. But I agree, there's a lot of unknowns. $3 million to $29 million, that's a lot of unknowns, but there's also a little bit less risk there. I'm getting a lot of feedback from somebody's phone.
Yeah, if somebody could mute that's perhaps listening to the live stream, that's creating a feedback. Sorry.
Thank you, Colin, user 35. And again, just to go back to my basic beliefs and regulatory policy for the state, is this checks my boxes of this provides control, convenience, and choice for consumers, and especially when they're in a monopoly situation and they don't have a whole lot of that. So I think it's great that the company brought this to us. I think that should be commended, and I would encourage us to adopt the program.
Okay. Commissioner Coleman, your thoughts?
Well, as usual, since I come behind Commissioner Roop, I get all excited when I hear him make a pitch, and then at the end he ruins it for me. So I have to say that relative to your comments, Mr. Chairman, I certainly am more on board the same line that you are. I do believe that it is electric plant. I believe that the lack of risk to shareholders is something that concerns me a bit. I also think that it can be a regulated program. The regulated program should mean, though, that the responsibility of the program remains with the regulated utility, not a third-party warranty company, as this surge equipment would be, this device would be. I think that all the Ameren customers, the fact that all of the Ameren customers would bear the cost of the program that benefits only some of their customers is definitely a concern for me also. And customers already have options to purchase surge protectors at competitive prices. One of the things that you said, Mr. Chairman, is that you talked about a pilot program. I do like the idea of a pilot program, probably with some changes. So, in a nutshell, that's where I am on this.
Okay. Commissioner Holzman, your thoughts?
Well, my first question would be, is it really plant if it's not required? And if it is plant and it is part of the base service, then the optionality of it would be a question. But I think for me, our commission rules require that the utility maintain service at tolerable levels, practical tolerable levels, and the mitigating that risk should probably not be an excessive center for profit. I don't have a problem with some profit built in. I mean, we have a rate of return that we approve for them. I would like to see a pilot give us more data that would demonstrate. Seems to me that $9.95 per month in perpetuity is potentially excessive on a device that is installed and base cost of $115. So I would just like to see more data, and I think a pilot project would do that. And I would just like to see something a little bit more reasonable to a reasonable rate of return for something that we would consider plant, even though it would be optional. And I also agree with Commissioner Coleman that essentially the responsibility for the program, if it's regulated, should lie with the utility and not a third-party warranty. And if it is a third-party warranty, we should definitely make sure covers the existence of the length of the program, and not just if that company goes out of business, then some factors need to be taken into consideration for that aspect of it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Kolkmeyer, your thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with you. It is part of the plant. It seems to be, and should be regulated. I also agree with Commissioner Coleman in that I have some concern about the third party being warranting this. Therefore, I like the idea of the pilot program to see how this thing may unfold down the road. So,
Okay. Judge, that answers, I think, the burning questions of whether it's plant and whether we will be approving it in this order. So is there anything else you need us to go over for this memo today?
That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Judge. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Commissioner. I mean, I from what I heard is I heard support for 5 people for the company to come back with another proposal.
Yes.
We're changing it and stuff. So I just want to make that clear to the company that's listing that it looks like you had 5 votes for some different type of a pilot program, and hopefully they'll take heed. And also, Commissioner Coleman, one of these days, maybe on my last day on the commission, I can get you all the way where you need to be to get you there. I mean, it's just, I feel like the Chicago Cubs. It's like I start off great and stuff, and then right towards the postseason, I just kind of fizzle.
Well, it happens, but I'm hoping that we end up on the same page completely one day. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
The clock's ticking.
Thank you, Commissioner Roop, for that clarification. I would also echo commending the company for bringing this to us, and I would like to see it come back in some form. So, all right. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Next case discussion is file number SA 2021-0017. This is the post-hearing discussion on Missouri American Water Company application for a CCN for Hallsville sewer system. This is Judge Jacobs' case, but I understand Judge Appel is covering.
Judge Jacobs should be on the phone.
Judge Jacobs, are you on the line?
I am here this morning, yes.
All right. I want to also point out this is Judge Jacobs' last week with the commission, so thank you for all of your hard work while you were here. I think you will be missed, and I wish you the best of luck in your new position. Let's go through your memo. What would you how would you kick us off?
Okay, thank you very much, Chairman. This is Missouri American Water Company's application for a certificate of convenience and necessity to operate the sewer system that is currently owned and operated by the city of Hallsville, which is located in Boone County. And Missouri American and the city agreed to acquisition of that system. And Missouri American filed an application with the commission for that certificate. Boone County Regional Sewer District intervened in the case, and the commission heard the case in a hearing on April 8th, 2021. and I prepared a case discussion memo for the commission to resolve the 3 key issues in this case so that an order can be prepared. I don't know if you'd like me to summarize those issues or if you're just going to proceed from the memo itself.
I think the memo is very very well written, so we'll just proceed down through the questions. The first question, as presented, is the Commission prohibited from granting a CCN to Missouri American for the Hallsville system as a matter of law? I would say no, we are not prohibited. I don't agree with the district's position. I think that the Commission can grant a CCN under our statutes so long as we think that the company meets the Tartan factors. And I don't think that the district, as a level 2 authority under DNR's regulations, opposing Missouri American's application status with DNR should impact in any way our authority to grant a CCN. So I agree with Missouri American and staff. I also don't agree with the district's assertion that its regulations prevent participation by a private water system in Boone County. So that's where I am on question 1. Commissioner Root?
I agree 100% with your comments.
Commissioner Coleman?
I am in agreement also with your comments.
Commissioner Holzman?
I support the chairman's position.
Commissioner Kolkmeyer?
As do I.
All right. Question 2, is Missouri American's operation of the Hallsville sewer system necessary or convenient for public service such that Missouri American's application should be granted? I think yes. I think that there is a need for the service and that the proper Hallsville authority approved of Missouri American providing that service. With the existing rates for Hallsville system and the feasibility study presented by a Missouri American, I also think the acquisition and operation by Missouri American is economically feasible. And I don't think there was really any argument over whether they meet the Tartan factors, and I believe they do. Commissioner Roop?
Again, I agree with your position.
Great. Commissioner Coleman?
As do I, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Holzman?
I support the chairman's position.
Commissioner Kolkmeyer?
As do I.
Okay. Third question, if the Commission grants Missouri American's application for a CCN, what conditions, if any, should be imposed? Sub A, should a CCN require Missouri American to provide service to district customers in the Sunny Slope and or Silver Creek subdivisions? I think they should honor the contracts unless and until they expire or are renegotiated. I don't want people to be left without service, and if Hallsville negotiated the agreements with the district, the Missouri Americans should honor it if they're acquiring that system. I know that there was a proposed requirement that Missouri American agree to negotiate, but agreeing to negotiate does not mean agreeing to reach a new agreement. So I think that they should, in sub A, I think that they should honor that. Commissioner Root?
I agree with you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Coleman?
I agree with the chairman's position.
Commissioner Holzman?
I support the chairman.
And Commissioner Kolkmeyer?
I also agree.
All right. Then looking at B, C, D, and E, I'm a no on all the rest of those. I don't think it's necessary. Before Missouri American can provide service, it will have to obtain the necessary permits from DNR. So I'm not opposed to them being ordered to obtain all necessary DNR permits before providing service, but I don't see a need to put a time restriction on it. And then I don't think that the district's proposed conditions on C, D, and E are appropriate or need to be addressed by the Commission. I think DNR can decide what type of conditions it does or doesn't want to place on their own permits. Commissioner Root?
Again, I agree with your position, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Coleman?
As do I.
Commissioner Holzman?
I support the chairman.
Commissioner Kolkmeyer?
I also support.
All right. Judge, I think that gets you all of the answers you need. Is that right?
Yes, thank you very much. That's exactly what I needed, and I want to thank all of you for the opportunity to work with the Commission. Thank you.
All right. Thank you again, and best of luck in your next endeavor.
Okay, good luck. Thanks for all your service.
Okay, that concludes case discussions for today. Next order of business is a presentation from Spire, Missouri on the STL pipeline. This is related to GR 2021-0127 and GR 2021-0128. Presenters this morning are Scott Weitzel and Scott Carter.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, good morning. Clicking through.
All right. Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Scott Weitzel of Spire. With me is Scott Carter, President of Spire, Missouri. Wanted to chat with you guys about some developments that have happened in the past couple weeks in the spirit of keeping communications open with Spire, Missouri and the Commission. There's been some activity in the courts. There's been some items in the media. And again, just want to make sure we keep that dialogue of what's going on with the utility that you regulate. We are Spire, Missouri. The regulated utility will be referencing Spire STL Pipeline, which is a different entity in Spire. It's regulated by FERC. So just wanted to kind of put some groundwork out there for you. But we'll turn it over to Mr. Carter.
And again, thank you, Commissioners, for the opportunity to brief you on the situation. I think it's important. I think it's something that everyone should be aware of. We've started an outreach campaign around it with the public, with elected officials, with other folks. So we're trying to make sure everyone understands where we are, what we're doing, and our expectations. Again, just STL Pipeline was constructed, it started service in 2019, and it was a new source of supply for gas into the St. Louis region. It did more than that. We'll talk about what it meant to the system and what it means to the system operation in a few slides. On June 22nd, the D.C. District Court of Appeals did issue a remand to FERC on that certificate with a vacate order. And the vacate order is the problematic part of it. If that vacate stands and that court decision against FERC stands, that pipeline could be forced to stop operation as early as mid-August of 2021. So it could be fairly immediate. So again, the FERC process for approving pipelines is a fairly rigorous one. It was an 18-month process for STL's approval, intervening parties. When FERC issued its approval order and authorization to construct, they gave Spire STL a 2-year window to construct that pipeline. They set about that work immediately and completed operations of the construction and went into service in 2019. So we've effectively had it as a service into the utility for two winter seasons. You look at infrastructure and what it does for you, and challenging periods really tell you what it does. And Winter Storm Uri was a test for us, and you all saw that across the state, and the challenges it brought to gas and several parts of the energy infrastructure with the well freeze-ins in Texas, Oklahoma, and the challenges of moving that gas around. The first thing that STL did for Spire, Missouri in the St. Louis region, and you'll see on the interconnect slides, is it provided a pressure boost around the entire envelope of St. Louis. So as St. Louis builds out and services build out into new areas, that's kind of the end of the straw, if you will. So those are the areas you tend to see the trouble the first if you have pressure issues. Winter Storm Uri, we were able to really see if our plan around that delivered, and it did. So we didn't have pressure issues in the St. Louis market with all the various sources of supplies and the flows that we had. The other part was the diversity. While most of the Midwest does pull gas from Texas, Oklahoma primarily as kind of that mid-continent play, what STL Pipeline did is allowed us to pull gas from Marcellus and Utica, which is in the Northeast. Those basins were largely unaffected by the effects of Winter Storm Uri, so it provided a more resilient supply for us. So I'm going to blame Scott Weitzel for this one. He said all these errors were plain as day, but let's try to walk you through. This is a map of St. Louis, the pipelines that serve it, and also in red is our main feeder lines. What's important is there's four major pipelines that come into the St. Louis region. All of them are critical. So if we have a problem with any one of them, They all hit the system in a different location. They all do different things for the system. So any failure on any one is a problem. In this case, what we're talking about is a potential challenge for STL. That's a problem. If we had an issue with MRT, that would be a problem as well. MRT remains the major supply source for natural gas into the St. Louis region. So if I start in the top right-hand corner where the pink line comes in, STL pipeline, it first interconnects with MoGas. MoGas is another pipeline that serves the region and a lot of Missouri. What we were able to do with that is start backfeeding gas from STL into MoGas. That bumped the amount of available gas on the Missouri gas system, MoGas. So you see the pink arrows moving around kind of that west side of the city. And then that also helps reinforce and backfeed. So we talked about the pressure issues. The ability to get more gas to the west side of the state and push it back eastward helped us mitigate those pressure issues. It eliminated the need for us to do system reinforcements on our own system that may be necessary to bring additional supply into that area.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
What is the I'm not able
Yeah.
to, how far west is your left side here?
Yeah, so
I can see Chain of Rocks up here.
So Chain of Rocks,
Uh-huh.
if you don't mind it.
No, please.
So what I'm pointing to is this gray ring.
Okay.
It's kind of the 270 loop.
Okay,
And then coming out, crossing the river, Wentzville is out here.
okay.
So really Wentzville to downtown
Sure.
is kind of the
Okay.
region. Going down to
Chesterfield is,
Chesterfield is in here.
okay. Thank you.
Sure, I'm sorry, I should have led with that. But this is that macro region. This is everything we serve in that greater metropolitan of St. Louis. So again, the first thing we did, it allowed us to do is push gas westward and then backfeed it on Missouri gas into our system, the red lines. That solved a lot of our pressure issues that we'd had on our localized system. Not the primary reason for building it, but it did let us avoid a lot of construction of our own system. Great value. The real benefit of that is you get into what we call high consequence areas, and we don't, putting new pipes in high consequence areas is pretty expensive. And, as you start bumping pressures in that area, you have to be aware of the impact to the local communities. So this avoided all that build. As you move down the line, you see a UGS, a red triangle there. That's underground storage. That's our own system storage. It's a large storage field that lets us bring gas in whenever it's warm and store it. And when it gets cold, we can pull that gas out and feed it into the system. STL pipeline operates at 650 pounds. That allows us to directly inject gas into storage. The storage field operates at about 630 pounds. So we don't have to have compression. We can just directly inject it. The biggest value of that is what we call counter-seasonal injections. So if we get a cold snap in December, we can pull gas inventory. If it gets warm again starting in January, so Midwest kind of does that back and forth, we'll re-inject during the winter. So if we get another cold snap in February, we can pull it down again. So that's a huge value for us to be able to cycle that inventory and serve the customers and make sure we have maximum availability of all of our assets for the full winter season. Finally moving down, I'm going to stop at Chain of Rocks, which is the last dot you see there. Chain of Rocks is where MRT had traditionally brought gas into that part of our system. Again, MRT is another interstate pipeline system. MRT's meter station there was in a floodplain, so it flooded periodically and created system issues. So whenever STL was built, MRT actually interconnected with STL. STL moved its meter station further up out of the floodplain. So actually, we need STL's pipeline to move MRT gas in at that point. So again, we reconfigured the entire system in this area. It's not just one pipe coming in to bring gas in. We configure the entire system to take full advantage of all of these pipelines, move gas around and make sure it's available where it's needed in the system when it's needed. So purple arrows are
They're gone. They're gone now.
So the next slide is just simply those 3 points, what happens if they're not in the system. And then obviously the supply that comes in on STL. We lose that back feed, so we start having pressure system issues again. Long term, we can solve these problems. We're really trying to focus on what's the immediate impact of an immediate vacation of that certificate. And so that's our immediate focus of making sure we keep gas flowing until a better solution is found, if that becomes necessary. Storage, again, we can't use that under the current configuration. We can't do the interseasonal cycling of that gas to be able to pull and leverage it back and forth. It would be filled during the summer and leveraged during the winter. And then finally, we can't bring gas in from MRT at Chain of Rocks given the current configuration because it does require movement across the STL to get it there. So just to put numbers behind it, it's roughly 350,000 difference between these two columns. And you may look at like the Spire STL line and say, why is that not 350? Because that's our contract. We bring 190 in directly into our system. And what you'll see is for example, on Enable MRT forward haul, that capacity has gone up, as is the backhaul on MRT. So we're pushing gas back on MRT. That's 70,000. Delivered into STL, pushed back along MRT, delivered into our system at MRT points where we need it. Same thing on the MoGas, where we were able to backfeed that system, get that around to the west side of the service territory, and then feed it back into our system where we needed it. So the total difference of this is 350. But again, just understand it's not a simple bringing into one point. When that gas comes in, we move it all around to get it where it needs to be in the city when it needs to be there. So I think we've talked through most of these points about the value of it. We did try to backcast against Winter Storm Uri and what would happen in the case where we didn't have that supply. So if we were sitting here today a year ago and FERC had a vacate order on that and we couldn't get gas from STL pipeline, it would have created a lot of issues. And number one on that is we potentially lose up to 133,000 customers. First, from a pressure issue drop. And then the second, as we pull down storage inventory through that winter period, that's a problem in that region because that becomes a supply source for that part of the city. And so as we don't have this incoming supply and we deplete the storage, it was a cold period. It wasn't a design period. So it was cold, and we would have, we know we would have lost customers. We think that could have been as high as 133,000. So again, our focus right now is the immediacy of making sure this pipe continues to serve while FERC goes through its process, and making sure that we can handle whatever in the long term, but in the short term, we really need that system to continue to operate, to continue to bring that supply in while FERC works through the challenges with the certificate. And then on the next slide on the 400,000, if you were to hit a design day, a cold winter design day, storage is depleted. Between storage and the capacity, going back to the previous slide, between storage and the 350 coming in off of STL, that's about 60% of our peak day, and so that would potentially put 60% of our customers at risk. So we're 400,000 customers in that region. So what we're doing right now is really trying to make sure everybody understands this. The court decision noted potential for some disruption. We're trying to make sure everyone understands it's more than some disruption. It's a very material impact to the St. Louis region, to our customers. I'm fine with whatever the court system and FERC goes through on that on a long-term basis. We'll figure that out. But on an immediate basis, I've got to have gas across STL to make sure I can serve my customers this winter and until and unless other solutions are determined. So that's my focus. For contingency planning, if something were to go wrong and say, well, you don't have that anymore, I've got our gas supply team going out and looking to understand what capacity is available in the market that we could leverage immediately. We're building some contingency plans, some curtailment plans about what customers could we ask to shut off, maybe some businesses and things that make sure gas remains for homes and facilities where it's affecting human life. Try to make sure that is held up first. But the real solution, if again STL is deemed to have such flaws in the certificate process that they can't be remedied, it's going to be more construction, on our system, more construction of pipelines into the region, compression, other things that are going to solve it long term. Those take time to build, and so we're asking to make sure in the short run the gas continues to flow while they work through any issues with their certificate.
So is the gas flowing on that pipeline today?
It is. The vacate order, so it automatically has an abeyance associated with it with the time window of the appeal of the I'm sorry, I'm not a lawyer, so I'll use wrong terms, but the time frame, you can go back and ask the court to reconsider their decision. So that is automatic, and so that's what gives you that August date. And then we'll look for, again, we're just a utility. We're just making sure everybody understands that gas needs to keep flowing. So whatever needs to happen in the short run to make that happen, I'm just asking that happens. The court system, FERC, whoever it is, that's going to be what I do, is make sure that in the short run my customers are served.
And all of those decisions rest with the courts or with FERC.
It does.
None of those decisions rest here.
They don't, and again, I certainly want to make sure you all are informed. It's not your purview.
Sure.
It's something we're all dealing with. And the decision was against FERC, and the pipeline gets affected by that, and then we as a customer gets affected by that. So we're really kind of 3 times removed, but ultimately, my customers are affected, and that's untenable for me. And so I'm trying to make sure everyone understands that, and can support at least the position that says whatever we do, customers can't be at risk for not having gas. And that's our short message at Spire, Missouri. I just want gas to show up for my customers. I've got to make sure I can serve them when it's cold.
Sure, and I always appreciate the open line of communication. Appreciate the information. I just wanted to make sure everybody was clear. You're not asking this body for anything because we don't have jurisdiction over this problem.
Absolutely. It's informational because, again, to the extent that becomes a reality, we'll all be challenged on that.
Sure.
We'll all be asked about it. And my obligation to you is keep you informed. We run the business, and we try to make sure we keep our problems. But this is something that affects everyone. And we just trying to make sure, again, we're talking to the mayor, we're talking to everyone who will listen about this implication, and to the extent there's an opportunity for folks to weigh in to say, let's make sure Missourians are served, that's what we're doing. So we're telling the story everywhere.
Sure.
Just to make sure people understand the seriousness of it, and we're doing everything we can to keep the gas flowing.
Sure. I appreciate that. Commissioners, are there any questions?
This is Commissioner Roop. I have a quick question.
Yep.
So you said you're looking to the courts and you're looking to FERC. Is there anything legislatively that can be done on the congressional level?
Commissioner, generally I would say no. One, from a timing standpoint, the process is playing out immediately, has an immediate implication. Longer term, the question about the legislature could, much like they do in Missouri, but at a federal level, could establish rules by which FERC must operate. Right now, FERC has a fair wide latitude on that. They operate under a policy statement. So there is things that the legislature could do at a national level to give FERC more direction. But again, that's not going to solve our immediate issue of this certificate and its potential for being vacated fairly soon.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Hearing none.
Thank you for your time. We'll keep you updated as this evolves and develops. But again, thank you for your interest.
Thanks for your
Thank you
information.
for the information.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners.
All right, before we go to close, we'll cover scheduling, and then I'll have a motion to go into closed for litigation. So Thursday, hold on. Appears that I've pulled up the wrong scheduling document. There we go. All right, Sunday, July 18th through Wednesday, July 21st is NARIC's Hybrid Policy Summit. Thursday, July 22nd, we will have agenda at 1 p.m. Again, Thursday, 1 p.m. Monday, July 26th through Friday, August 6th, we have an evidentiary hearing in GR 2021-0108. That's Spire's General Rate Case. That will be at 9 a.m. in room 310 with Judge Hatcher. Wednesday, July 28th, we'll have agenda at 3 p.m. that day to accommodate scheduling. Wednesday, August 4th, we'll have agenda at 10:15 a.m. And Wednesday, August 11th, we will have agenda at 9 a.m. Thursday, August 12th through Friday, August 13th, we have an evidentiary hearing in WA 2020-0397. That's Liberty's application for a CCN. That'll be at 10 a.m. in room 310 with Judge Graham. And then Wednesday, August 18th, we have agenda at 2:15 p.m. and then a USB meeting immediately following agenda. So for the next 30 days, we have agenda moving all around, but to accommodate various requests. So does anybody have any comments, questions, or requests regarding scheduling through August 18th? All right, hearing none, that concludes scheduling. So that brings us back to the need to go into closed session. I'll make a motion to go into closed session under section 610.021 sub 1 RISMO. That's to discuss litigation. Is there any discussion on that motion? Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
I second.
Seconded by Commissioner Kolkmeyer. All right, all those in favor of going into closed session under section 610.021 sub 1 RISMO, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion is approved 5-0. We will clear the line and close the room, and we will adjourn immediately upon conclusion of the closed session.